Hello and welcome inside the Scores Table. Brian Haenchen, Danny Riego here with you. Weekly wrap-up show. A lot to get to from this week, specifically from Saturday, where Roncalli knocked off Lawrence Central. You had Marquette taking down South Bend St. Joseph early in the week. You have the county championship game tomorrow. Danny, there's a lot to get to. I will ask how you are doing in just a second, but first we have some news to share. I'm sure as many have heard, on Friday night, basketball official Jeff Tamari collapsed and died during the second quarter of Friday's Monrovia Speedway game at the age of 63. Kyle Mednarp has a really nice story up on Jeff. He's going to talk to Jeff's daughters later today, I think, and have his story Monday too. But the man was known as Jeff the Ref, and from Kyle's story, quote, "He was so good about reading people," said close friend and fellow official Terry Taylor. "He would get to know the kids on the field or on the court and talk to them about the games, and the kids loved him. They always knew they could approach him." Again, you can read more on Jeff and everything on IndyStar.com from Kyle Mednarp. But our condolences, thoughts, and prayers with the family, everybody involved. I know that it was pretty traumatic for the student athletes there in the building, for the fans in the building as well. But a really, really tough situation over at Monrovia on Friday night. Danny, there's no good way to transition from that, so I'll just do it clunkily as normal and just ask how you're doing on this fine Sunday.
Well, I wish we had better news to open the show with. But just to transition, like what was it? -20 wind chill today. Like if there is anything that feels like a Sunday, a basketball Sunday in Indiana in the winter, this feels like it. So we'll talk about whatever games didn't get canceled, I guess.
Yeah, we will. So we're going to start today with Marquette Catholic. They had the big 72-57 win over South Bend St. Joseph. They improved to 9-0. Lanaya Davis, 31 points on 13 of 26 shooting, 9 rebounds. Marissa Pleasant, 15 points on 6 of 14 shooting. Addison Penzall, 8 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. And Zanaya Mann, 11 rebounds and 3 assists. Hell of a win for Marquette Catholic. And Danny joining us now is friend of the show, Katie Collignon. Hey, Katie.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Trying to stay warm with you.
Yeah, has it been snowing like crazy up there too?
It has. I think we've only gotten like maybe 2 to 3 inches so far today, but it's been a cold one for sure.
Yeah, it's brutal down here too. First off, congratulations on the win from earlier this week. Just talk us through the approach defensively for you guys against a team like South Bend St. Joseph and the Ariana Roel kid.
Yes. I mean, again, South Bend was probably one of the first teams we played that really had 5 scorers at every position. So we know we had to respect everybody on the floor. When you have a player like that freshman Powell that can get to the basket and also shoot that 3, especially in transition, you got to find everybody early. So our goal was to know where she is, but be aware of everybody else. We played pretty aggressive man-to-man, so we wanted to stick with that. And we knew that she was going to get hers and take some tough shots, but to get that ball to the basket and get back up the floor as quickly as possible.
And then on the other side, I mean, Lanaya Davis, it's standard day at the office for that kid. I mean, she's been absolutely phenomenal. What have you seen from her just in terms of her development and the steps that she's taken, even just from the last time we spoke at the end of last year to this year?
I mean, her game just keeps evolving. I mean, you think, that she would have hit all of her milestones by now, but she really hasn't. So her game is just, like I said, continue to evolve, and she continues to grow as a player, make even better decisions, better reads, get her teammates involved. And, when she's coming downhill to the basket, it's hard to stop. But now that we have 3 to 4 shooters surrounding her, it makes us a pretty powerful offense.
So Haenchen mentioned Lanaya and Pleasant and Penzall, of course, and all 3 kids were on the roster, maybe in different roles. A lot of times you see continuity from year to year, particularly when you turn kind of ball-centric people like that. But what is different between this team this year and maybe the teams of the last couple of years? Or is there anything that stands out?
I think we're more skilled offensively than we've ever been before. I think that, not that we weren't last year, but we're just kind of a different makeup. When you have kids that really all should have the green light, like 1 through 9, it makes you a pretty powerful offense. And so I think that their ability to kind of step up into those roles and know that we're maybe not as big, but we can get out and run and be a little more active that way. I think that's kind of changed our makeup a bit.
Yeah, centering on Penzall. So, we watch you. We don't watch every basketball game, but we watch some of them. And one of the things that stood out in the South Bend St. Joe game and watching it was it's a better version of Lanaya Davis. It's maybe a more experienced, better version of Pleasant. But Penzel was the kid that on film, and I actually texted you. I was like, what's the deal here? Where did this kid come from? Center in on her. Talk about maybe the transfer from Lalu when you first got her at that point in time to today. Just center in on her and how she changes you.
Yeah, I mean, when she came in last year as a junior, and we were pretty established, already. We had gone to the state finals the year before. We were bringing everybody back, so kind of a tough spot for this kid to walk into, even though she's very skilled, very high basketball IQ, great motor, has everything that coach dream of in a point guard position. And I think, she did a great job for us last year, but maybe never felt like it was her team, kind of her, system. So I think she's really taken to heart this year. She's grown in leadership. She's grown in confidence. Not only she's gotten better, making decisions on the floor, but just she's a more skilled basketball player. So I think she's come in, she's really accepted this team as her own and wants to be the floor general, the floor leader. And you can see that in big games like the South Bend St. Joe game.
Yeah. And Coach, it's maybe we've had you on the show, obviously in the state championship run, a couple of years ago. We talked about your success leading up to that. We covered you on the show last year, but this might be the earliest in the season that you've been on here. It's almost like there's not this apologetic ramp up that we have to be like, oh, we know you've been good. Has that changed the outlook and what the goal? I'm sure the goals haven't changed. I'm sure it's one game at a time trying to get toward downtown, but does it feel different this year? Do you feel more like a favorite? Is there more pressure? I mean, just talk about that just in relative to where we are in the season.
Yeah, it's definitely an early phone call. We don't talk in December ever. So I love that. That's very exciting. I think you're right. The goals haven't changed. I think we do take things pretty methodical up here because we have some big goals to attain. But I think this year, I think everybody's a little more locked in. I think losing in that semi-state overtime last year hurts a lot more than even at least losing the state finals maybe hurts. Because I think we thought we were going to go back or had the goal of going back. So I feel like the focus level is a little more there. I think when you have two great leaders in Addie and Lanaya as your seniors, there's a little more urgency. This is the last year, so Lanaya's had, those next year. Well, this is it. So I think everyone feels a little bit more pressure wise. I'm coach that tells the kids to eat up pressure. We love it. Pressure is a privilege. So if you're, that's always positive. So I think, overall that it's a positive environment going up there for sure.
You guys have the Intera Classic coming up, and I feel like getting invited to an event like that just speaks volumes about where you all are all at as a program. I guess just how did you guys get into that event? And I mean, I'm sure for you as a coach, you're looking forward to playing teams like Northridge, Westfield, and Greensburg.
For sure. Well, that one's been kind of on our bulletin board for years now. I've talked to my husband's actually the athletic director, and so that one's been circled if a team ever drops, and we're in a good spot. We're going to try to get in. And I've known Doug for a while now. We've served on some committees together, IBCA, and I think he's seen us play. And we played actually this summer in a tournament up here in Hammond. And after we played there, he's like, okay, we made the right choice by having you guys in this thing. So super privileged to be there. I think, the only 1A school, it's going to be a big stage for my kids, and we're excited for the challenge. And I think, I think it's going to be an awesome tournament.
So was your husband pulling some strings with Doug too behind the screens? Like you guys working both angles on him a little bit? You know it.
That I think an email went out, and I think my husband responded within a minute when they found out a team drop. So yeah, that took some little bit of some people. It's good to know.
I love that. So from the Class A school perspective, what benefits do you get from playing a team like a Westfield, from playing a team like a Greensburg, the two that you have on the back end of that slate? Like, because you're probably not going to see that style of play or teams with that type of roster later in the season. So just for you, what do you see as the positives and the benefits of scheduling those games?
I mean, I've always been a coach, or I've always wanted to schedule up. The tournament's not seeded. You can really go 0-20 and you could win the state championship if that happens. So I think the better competition you can play, the better you can have your kids for any situation, any competition, the better you're going to be. So playing those teams with those, somebody's different sizes, different depths, different skill sets, just allows us, when hopefully that time comes in February and maybe things slow down a little bit, that we're ready for any challenge that might hit us. So, I'm always going to try to schedule the best teams and play the best, because I think that's where you see where you're at.
Well, not to belabor the point, Katie, but I don't know that I completely heard Hank here. I looked it up actually. I mean, so after Northridge, Westfield, Greensburg, Hammond Central, Lake Central, South Bend, Washington, which has gone through obviously a considerable amount of changes. Crown Point is down there. Are these all new teams to the schedule? Like, you didn't play them last year, did you?
We had a Hammond Central, I believe, on the schedule, but Lake Central and Crown Point are new for sure this year.
Oh,
Is it easy to get them lined up? Are they willing to play a Class A school?
They are, they are open to it. I think if I'm calling them for a reason. I'm calling because I think we can put together a good basketball game. And I'm not calling them as a favor or like, oh, just come down and beat us by 30. That's not the phone call. So I think they respect me and our program. I think at this point, if I'm calling them, to have a game that they're willing to play us, like I said, I think it's a win-win for both in that situation.
Is it different at this point than it was the last time, like before your previous state championship runs, because it was back-to-back, right? Is it different now than it was even back then?
I think so. Do you mean like in terms of scheduling or just like the teams?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in terms of scheduling and respect and all that.
Yeah, I think we struggled to pick up games often when we were first, kind of coming into the scene. And when I first started, just because you don't have that name behind it. There's not that strength behind it. I think Marquette girls didn't win a sectional for since the beginning of time before that. So I think once you do that and you get to know more coaches and they kind of get to know your program, I think that it makes it a lot easier. So, yeah.
Hank opened with Ari Rowell. I don't know. Maybe just an open-ended question here. Like, now that you've seen her, I mean, sometimes on stream and sometimes in Indianapolis, kind of tucked up there in South Bend. I mean, you just kind of read the tweets and these kids are so young, and are there similarities between her and Lanaya? I mean, you seemed conscious of who she was when you coached against her, but you also seemed relatively vanilla. Like we're not going to sell out on a kid. But having seen her on the floor, Katie, like, are you buying the Ari Rowell stock that seems to be flying high down here in Indianapolis?
Yeah, she's a real deal. I mean, she's long, she's athletic. She can do a lot of things off the dribble or catch and shoot. Kind of similar to Nye freshman year, wants to go right a lot. We tried to force that, I think teams will learn that as the season goes on. If you make her go left, let's see what she can do. But no, just an upside huge. I mean, she has that length, that athleticism. She has a good motor. She plays almost the entire game. No, I think she's going to be the real deal for sure.
And then, and I'll close with Lanaya. What do you need to see out of her? She doesn't. I don't think she's missed a mid-range jumper for you, like at any point in time that I've seen her on film. Like, it's remarkable how well she shoots that shot. She's finishing at the rim. You seem to be, look, the schedule is she's going to take what's there, right? And I think we've always talked about the 3-point shot, but what do you need to see from her in kind of this postseason run? And that's not limited to just the postseason run. I mean, I think you're into the development of these players for the next level also, kind of frame it in that sense. Lanaya is a next level player, and just kind of talk about it as her high school coach, what you need to see her do this last 2 months of the season.
Yeah, I mean, she's always been a player where she's at her best with the ball in her hands. I'd love to see what she can do with the ball out of her hands. And she's done really good things for us this year so far with the added just scores that we have among the floor. I'm a point guard, so I always will say better decisions, control the game. We have, being a high-powered offense, right, we got to sometimes learn, and I hate to even say it, to pump the brakes just a little bit. Kind of happened that South Bend St. Joe game. We were up, I think, 26, and then, we still play like it's the first quarter. And I need her to have that maturity and kind of that, just that gamemanship to be like, hey, guys, like, we can still, do this, but let's look for the best shot, maybe not the quickest shot at all times. So just decision-making, the leadership on the floor, and then, to see what she does without the ball in her hands.
Well, 22.9 points per game, pretty close to a double-double, pretty close to 10 rebounds. She does everything for you. She guarded Ari Rowell in that basketball game against South Bend, Washington. Katie, this wasn't planned or anything like this, but give us the Indiana All-Star. Tell us why she's an Indiana All-Star.
I mean, that kid's got to be on your team because your team's going to be a heck of a lot better. I mean, she can score from any part in the floor. She can defend a person's best player. She rebounds. She can see the floor. She makes a great pass. If you want a kid that, you don't have a lot of time to put an offense in, she is the offense. Just give her the ball. And I stand by that. So I think she's one of the best players in the state. I think she's working towards deserving that honor. I think we schedule good enough to show that we're not just some small 1A, up here in the region that's not playing anybody. And she's doing those things against really good competitors day in and day out. So, I'm putting my ballots in, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, Katie, thanks so much for jumping on with us. It was great catching up with you, and we'll certainly be talking again here in a couple months.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Katie,
take care.
Take care.
Katie Collignon of Marquette Catholic joining us. I mean, that team, Danny, is something else. Like, it would not, like, Austin Huff and I were texting about this the other day, just how remarkable it is to see a Class A school invited to that Northridge event. Yep. Where, again, they're playing Greensburg, which is in the state championship game last year. They're playing Westfield, which I saw the other night, and that's a damn good defensive team. And they're playing Northridge, another talented team from up there. So it's a tremendous honor for them, and it speaks volumes of where they're at as a program. And like she said, I mean, offensively, the steps that they've taken have been remarkable. And honestly, Crown Point's up. They're trending up, but those could be the only loss or two of the season could be coming up here at that event in December to a 3A 4A school.
They will be so difficult to beat come later in the winter. But the one thing that I marvel at, and I don't want to, slurp Katie in the Marquette Catholic program too much here, but when we started watching Pleasant and Lania Davis a couple of years ago, pretty early in the season when we started to uncover, it's like when we started, it was like when we started to be like, hey, like IndyStar was saying, like, hey, people are watching this, like in different parts of the state. And we started kind of getting deeper into like who are the Class A, Class 2A teams were. And then we uncover that Marquette Catholic is one of the better teams in Class A, and we start following them and start watching them. From that standpoint to this point, like Marissa Pleasant and Lania Davis, those two kids particularly have gotten so much better, and they've gotten so much more complete with their games. And I kind of alluded to it with the 3-point shooting, but Penzel was the kid for me. Like, that's what prompted me to text Katie to ask about the Penzel kid. I don't even remember her on last year's roster. So I started looking her up. I mean, here's a kid who's going to go to Holy Cross. Like, this is a next level NAIA player that's receiving money to play at the next level. And the development of that kid, for me not to remember her with the volume and the frequency that I had watched Marquette Catholic, means that there was a 3 or 4 month stretch in the off season where that kid came in and her role changed and her skill developed. And so I don't think that this is like a Lania Davis. I don't think this is mirrored with Lania Davis and her graduation. I think Marquette Catholic is going to be very good for a while. I think they're going to continue to have people that will look at Katie to kind of take her through those years. And I think one of the things that they will look at will be the development of the kids that they have on the roster. But they are a fun watch. You can wait till downtown, because the chances that you're going to see them in downtown are probably pretty high. They're very good, everybody.
I have it written in a midweek or a mid-season wrap-up that's going to post tomorrow, but I actually need a Borden versus Marquette Catholic state championship game. Like, that would be a fully healthy Borden with all those seniors they have from last year's state team versus everybody that we just talked about on Marquette Catholic would be phenomenal. And Borden, by the way, another Class A powerhouse, the defending state champions, they'll be at a big Class 3A, 4A event too with Rings and Rings, where I think they can face South Knox, LaPel, Heritage Christian. Like, that's a packed field up there too. And I think that's where I'm going to get to right after Christmas, because it's only an hour drive from Indianapolis. But that'll be a phenomenal event, some phenomenal tests there for Borden. But yeah, I mean, that's the way it's trending, right? Like, we almost got it last year, but a really good Lafayette Central Catholic team knocked off Marquette Catholic. This year, I don't see a Lafayette Central Catholic in the field. I mean, we talk about always kind of being a little late to get into the smaller classes because it's difficult to get a read on everybody. So I've tried to make a more conscious effort to at least just monitor scores, look at the SAG ratings and all that. And I mean, just looking at it now, strength of schedule, strength of talent, and obviously I'm sure I'm naturally biased towards those schools because I'm more familiar with them. But on paper, it's difficult to see anybody from the smaller class challenging them along the way to Gamebridge. Weird things happen, but if it all goes chalk, that's what we'll be seeing in a couple months.
Well, if that indeed comes to fruition, and I need to be very careful not to preview a state championship in December, but if we do get that, what's really interesting is Katie actually said it in her interview. And if you listen, she was talking about how small they were. Or she didn't say it like that. She said, we're not as big as we used to be. Okay. That's code word for the coach being concerned about it. Not concerned about it, but very conscious that there is a deficiency in the construction of the roster. Having said that, that's exactly what Borden is not. They are not small. They are long. They are athletic. And when they get Wheeler back, and hopefully that is very, very soon, and hopefully that's before the conclusion of the season. But they are very, very big. And that's not always a height thing. or like a post player kind of thing, you can be big with in the absence of a post player. Like Wheeler and Rarick and like even their smaller kids,
they're
Malad,
long.
like
Yeah.
yes, they just play with this strength. And if you remember last year in the state championship game,
yes,
when Matt went to the 1-3-1, we talked about how the 1-3-1 with the length of the drop on the weak side affected rebounding in the game, affected passing angles in the game. There is some real just attraction to that matchup because it is maybe contrasting styles and a lot of talents on the floor.
And coaching wise, it doesn't get much better than that either, because I remember Matt installed some of these defensive things that he showed in that game the day before the game, the afternoon before the game. Like they were working on it in the week leading up to it because they wanted to catch Lafayette Central Catholic off guard. Like they had some things installed and ready to go that were new that hadn't been shown on film yet. And Katie's been here before. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she has. I'm sure that she's plotting for some of these potential teams, be it a Borden and be some of the other potential contenders there in Class A, for teams along the way so that they don't get tripped up. So that is going to be a fun chess match to watch between those two sides. Danny, let's shift to the Marion County tournament. We're going to be talking a lot of Roncalli, Lawrence Central here in a second, but I feel like the one that we have to probably start with is Franklin Central Roncalli, because that was the first win, at least for the Royals this season, where I looked at it, I was like, oh, okay, I see it now. And that set up the Lawrence Central game. But the defensive play of this team is going to keep them in a lot of games. And the physicality with which they play is going to win them a lot of games too.
The conclusions for me, I think, are already complete. I think regardless of what happens in the remainder of the Marion County tournament, I think Roncalli is the team that made the biggest statement.
Yes.
And I don't know, like I'm embarrassed that I'm surprised by it. Like this, like Cerny, Leffler, Turk, Roscoe, like I'm doing this off the top of my head. Like those are all the kids that made a deep postseason run last year. They all return. We talked and celebrated the leadership of Roscoe and Cerny. We've celebrated the offensive prowess of Leffler. They have the length and the athleticism that, a kid like Staley brings, who by the way was in foul trouble in the semifinal, and didn't even really play that much. Like she's only played really half of the season. But if you look at 3A, and like I looked at it last night because again, just my level of embarrassment for maybe how I viewed Roncalli coming into it. The IGCSA, rankings, which are regardless of which actually rank them by class. If you go down to the 3A level, there are, of the top 10 teams, 8 of the top 10 teams, Hank, feed south. They include teams like Washington. They include teams like Evansville Central. They include teams like Greensburg. They include really good basketball, Silver Creek, with, Indiana All-Star candidates, Miss Basketball candidates, really good coaches, really experienced teams that have been there. But my conclusion thus far is that Roncalli belongs in that conversation. And what they've shown in the Marion County tournament thus far, and I'm saying really global, and I know you asked specifically about the Franklin Central game, but I think it's really impressive, and I'm really anxious to talk to. I don't know. I think we probably have Elliot and Brennah on.
We do. We have Brennah, Cerny, and Elliot Leffler be here with us in a couple minutes. I'm going to bring on DeeAnn Ramey, who's going to help us with the interview.
Great.
DeeAnn's been on the call for a number of these games. I got to listen to the call this morning. She's killing it on the TV side. Lex not seeing her on the sideline, but DeeAnn, it's been fun hearing you on the broadcast. How are you liking the broadcast side?
I'd rather be in the huddle. Let's take it like that. But it is a learning experience, and it is very intense. But started off rocky, getting a little bit better. We'll continue to improve, but I'm not sure it's my forte yet.
Is it scratching the itch, being at least around the game in that capacity?
Oh, absolutely. It's very therapeutic, I would say, because a lot of people are coming up to me, seeking me out, saying how much that they've appreciated what I've done for, or the time and commitment I've given to girls basketball. And, it's very appreciative.
Good. One game, we have 4 minutes before the girls come on. One other game that I wanted to touch on before we deep dive into the Roncalli Lawrence Central match with them. Brebeuf knocking off North Central. That was like one of the other surprises, I feel like, from earlier in the tournament. DeeAnn, were you on the call that one as well?
No, I wasn't. I was able to watch it, though.
Okay, so I will toss it to you guys and just your thoughts on a full-strength Brebeuf team scoring a really nice win to get themselves back in the semifinal for, I think, the third year in a row, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. It was a really interesting game. Again, I thought North Central should have won the ball game. They had, I think, more depth than Roncalli did, but Roncalli just didn't give up. They're taking on the attitude of their coach right now and playing with a lot of heart. And it was a weird game. The game started off slow. Nobody was hitting. And I thought once North Central got down actually by 9, and then they came back. And then once they got into overtime, I actually thought that they would come away with the win. But, Brebeuf just wouldn't give up, and they got some extra tough plays as far as loose balls, some extra rebounds, and North Central just didn't fare well.
Danny, did you have a chance to screen that one?
I didn't. I am familiar with Brebeuf. I will admit, again, I'm like, making fun of myself for how out of touch maybe I was heading into this Marion County tournament. But when I turned on so I can't even remember what it was. I turned on the Pike Brebeuf game.
Oh yeah.
Again, almost surprised to see Brebeuf there. Okay, so here's what we know. Okay, like what we know is that Jalen Bowling is an experienced kid, had an injury, came back, has a Division I, talent and kind of box. But I was impressed with the Solaria kid. That was the kid that we had kind of brought up kind of earlier and very similarly to what we've done in the past. We've just kind of like, remember when we were like, hey, Lily Maple's a really good 29. Like Leah Solaria is a good basketball player. Okay. And the one thing that I saw in the Pike game, as lopsided as it was, which I'm sure you can see in other rounds of the Marion County tournament, is this kid's adjustment to varsity basketball in regards to her freshman fear is really not like she's developing really nicely. Like she didn't back down at all. And she didn't seem like a kid who was sped up by Pike or bothered by their length or, hurt by their physicality. And so when you have these kids that are, playing in their first varsity basketball season, and at the risk of redundancy, I feel like we say this all the time. It's such a different kid when it comes to the postseason, because now they've experienced the ebbs and flows of a varsity basketball game 20 times over. I think that's one thing that I really like about Brebeuf is I think Solaria can come in and really help Pate and really help Bowling in maybe taking some pressure off of them and not having to do so much. Because right now, if you look, not right now, but earlier in the season, if you looked at it, it would be like, well, they're going to go as Jalen Bowling goes. Not true. And I think you're starting to get some early returns on what Brebeuf is, and some returns on what Brebeuf is putting into it, particularly because of Leah Solaria. We
can circle back here to the rest of the bracket. I want to get the girls on. Roncalli, Lawrence Central. Roncalli won 50-45 over Lawrence Central. Kind of the game that sent shockwaves through the entire state, I would say. But as Danny said, maybe shouldn't have been as much of a surprise as it was. Elliot Leffler, who'll be with us in a second, 14 points. Brennah Cerny, who will also be with us, 12 points. Reagan Turk, who Danny mentioned, was our volleyball player of the year. She had 12 points and a big steal and score. I was texting with Sims about her yesterday and just how well she's been playing of late. Really, really impressive win for the Royals, who advance to the county championship game tomorrow night against Pike. And with that, we welcome on Brennah Cerny and Elliot Leffler. What's up, guys?
Hey.
Hi.
How are things?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I want to start with you guys. Elliot, we'll start with you, and then Brennah. Let's start with the defensive effort, because you guys did such a great job of denying Lola Lampley open looks, and then it seemed like you're kind of forcing Kiki Butler to perimeter shots. Was that kind of the approach last night? And just how would you guys assess the defensive performance yesterday?
Well, honestly, Kiki did a great job. Lawrence Central is super well coached and everything, but our defensive effort from everyone was just amazing. And we knew we were going to come into a zone because they were so drive oriented. So we were trying to make them shoot the three more than getting stuff in the lane.
I do have to say one of our big things was to cover the paint and to if they were going to win, let them win on the perimeter instead of just driving to the basket and scoring.
Danny?
The defensive game plan I thought was executed perfectly. Brennah, I wanted to compliment you. I thought you at the top of the odd front zone. I thought as a spectator, I thought it was very clear that you understood who Kiki Butler was and understood who Lola Lampley was. If you just look at this at the position and how much you shaded based on which different players caught the ball and where, Brennah, you were fantastic. Okay, in that, and so I would like for you to maybe just talk about that. It's the Marion County tournament. Coach Ramey talked about it. You don't have a ton of time to prepare for this. That has to be something that you just got the night before and just decide and just kind of naturally or instinctively did. But it was you affected that basketball game more than any other player on the floor, and you did it so by only scoring 11 points, but doing it on the defensive side. Talk about that just a little bit more. And what did that preparation look like, or what are you thinking?
Well, basically, I just watched a lot of film, and Sims was telling us how we needed to double down or at least try and not have Lola just be in the paint all the time. And I knew that Kiki was the one who always shot it. I mean, in the film, she would always be the one to shoot it if they need it. So I knew I couldn't just sag off. I was the one that needed to be up and in the people's faces and all, and I had my team in the back helping me to make sure oh, Lola's at the top of the key or Kiki's on the side. My team was always helping me to make sure who's where.
And Elliot, I have a specific question for you. Look, you lead Roncalli in scoring. While you guys were waiting backstage, you heard my comments about how embarrassed I was at this. But one of the things that is very easy to like about Roncalli this year is your ability to score the ball. You come out and get 9 points in the first half, which is really, really difficult against Lawrence Central, by the way. But then you have to be really economical with the shots that you selected to take down the road and kind of making them. Just talk about the game from a game flow perspective with you on the offensive side. If you want to frame it hey, I got 9 off, in the beginning, but I don't know that you had high volume, but you took and made big shots. And I think it's the mark of a really good basketball player that understands how to play in a game like that. So Elliot, talk about you on the offensive side.
In practice, we always practice our offense and every shot that we can get out of our offense. And to perform it in practice means that you can also perform it in a game. And it just takes the coaches and your teammates to have confidence in you to hit those shots in a game. And I think that that's just what's most important, honestly, to have that backup for you, that support and just the confidence in you to perform in every game.
DeeAnn?
Yeah, Elliot, I tell you what, I was so impressed at the end of the ball game. So Lawrence Central, they started off with Butler on you, trying to stop you offensively.
Yeah.
Butler got into foul trouble. She got 4 fouls. So they knew that you, in fact, I think you did one time. She was on you and you just took her straight to the hoop and scored. And she wasn't going to get her 5th. And I think you understood that. That's why you took her to the hoop. Then they switched to, I think it was Aubrey Ingram on you. And again, that necessarily didn't work. And then they had to put Lampley on you. And I was just so impressed with you understanding the 3 defensive stop that they tried to put on you and then how you adjusted to that. Can you speak to that?
Yes. I think I can recognize when someone is really trying to stop an offense and to have different people and you need to read those situations oh, it's time to go. If somebody switches on you, when it's time to go and when it's not, when it's time to pass the ball. And I think that like with the help of my teammates and like everything, I can just realize like when it's time to go and when I need to drive, if someone's in foul trouble, if I need to dish it out, like, and my teammates are constantly talking to me and like telling me which ways I need to pass or like anything, honestly. So it's really back on my teammates to help me understand that.
Yeah, it was impressive. And
Thank
then,
you.
Brennah, I would like to know, okay, so I would say that Roncalli definitely had the toughest road out of everybody in this tournament draw. You had to play a really tough Decatur Central team that's working hard, improving, and you had to beat them 4A. Then you turned around and you had to beat Franklin Central, ranked 12th in the state. Then you had to turn around and beat the #1 team in the state. How did those pre-game talks by Coach Sims before the game, as you knock off these top teams, how does that come into play?
I do have to always say Coach Sims always tells us to play with a chip on our shoulder. And he tells us that no matter what the rankings are, be the aggressors out on the floor. And so we don't care where like the rankings are. We just know that we need to follow what our scout says and follow what Sims tells us to do. And he always says, just go have fun, just play your hearts out. And I mean, I feel like that's what we've been doing. So couldn't be more proud of my team.
Absolutely. And then what do you think that last year you guys had an unbelievable tournament run, got to lost in the semi-state last game, one more game to the state championship and lost to Greensburg. How do you think that prepares you, or did it, help out in this tournament run for Marion County?
It just showed us like what we needed to learn. Like, I feel like we would go back on the Greensburg game so much that we would know that this is what we need to do to be the team that Greensburg had, or like be the team that FC and Lawrence Central is. And I mean, we just brought it all together. And like, if it wasn't for Sims having this great scout and like helping us be able to know like all of this, we wouldn't be able to be here without him.
Brennah and Elliot, DeeAnn referenced just the attacking, Elliot with you specifically, but it seemed like overall as a team, you guys were a lot more aggressive in attacking the basket. And that seems maybe that's kind of been a theme and more of a focus over the past few games. Has it been to get more inside instead of relying on the three ball?
Yes. I think it was against Mater Dei. Our coach at halftime said that it was during the second half. We were relying on so much of the three, and we just had to get to the lane. And sometimes our team isn't the best at just driving. Like, we rely on the three too much sometimes, and that's like one of our weaknesses probably. But these past couple games, we've like come out with an attitude that we need to get better at that, and we have gotten better at that, just coming out with an attitude to drive. And it just helps that our coaches are there too.
Brennah, has the buy-in from everybody been pretty immediate on driving? Because I mean, you're starting to drive and attack the basket against teams like Franklin Central, Duval, and then Lawrence Central of all teams. Like, that seems like a bad spot to start. So do you have to do a little bit more encouraging as a senior, or is everybody on board?
I think everyone's on board. I feel like even though that like some of us don't really like to drive, I mean, we see that if we all drive, people are going to collapse on us after a while. And so then our threes are actually going to be open, and we'll have open threes. So I think everyone's just really like into it and like knows what needs to be done.
The last time that I talked to you guys, obviously Turk and Staley weren't playing yet. They were still coming off of volleyball. Now that they are back, has it been pretty quick, pretty easy to ease them back into the lineup, into the rotation of things, and for them even just to get up to basketball shape?
Yeah, I think it actually only took maybe 1 or 2 games for them to just get back into things. Their first game back was Center Grove, and I think that it showed that that was their first game back just because it was not a team effort in getting our offense together and everything. Our defense wasn't there yet, and it just like took them a couple games to get equipped to our pace and everything, and practices were more intense next week just to get them equipped and ready for the rest of the season.
Another thing I was really impressed with by your team is the spacing that you guys create to allow the inside-outside game. And it seems like you guys know exactly where everybody's going to be. And again, that's impressive. Do you work on that a lot in practice?
Yeah.
Yes. Every day, the first 20 minutes of practice, we focus on all of our offensive sets and what we can get out of each of them. We just take those first 20 minutes before we even stretch. We just walk through all of our plays and all of like the options we get out of each play, so we know when to look for them in a game.
And then Roncalli has always been known. You guys have always had great shooters and being great free throw shooters. So towards the end of the Lawrence Central game, I think there was 3 different players that went 1 for 2 down the stretch. In your minds, as that's happening, when you usually hit free throws, was how was your mental there? You know, was you guys did you doubt anything? What was going through your mind? I think both of you stepped up to the line during that time, right? Both of you went 1 for 2. Is that correct? Yeah. And you know, what was going through your mind at that time? You're getting ready to knock off the #1 team in the state, and those free throws are huge.
Go ahead, Brennah.
I think that even though we were missing them, I think we had our team, like all of our teammates were just like, you got it, like keep your head up, like make this one. And the first free throw I took, I didn't stay on the line. I just kind of like shot it and then walked back. And Sims was like, stay on the line, like stay on it. Like no matter what, even if we like miss these, like we always have our teammates to like make sure we breathe and make sure we're ready to shoot, and like we'll hit the next one.
Yeah. You guys were amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck tomorrow. I'll shoot it back to Hank. I do have one more question. Like, it's a tale as old as time when watching Lawrence Central. Like, they're close games, and then they turn you over, and they take a 2-point lead, and then you look up, and that 2-point lead is suddenly a 12-point lead. Like, it just happens, okay? But your experience as a team, not to turn the basketball over, I think there were some ATO situations where you answered ATO with like 6-0 runs, like in kind of that mid-40s range, like 48, 42 range, I think. You guys seem like a basketball team that is experienced and poised for a postseason run. And you heard me say, kind of leading into it, Washington, who I screened, by the way, is fantastic. Silver Creek, Greensburg, Charlestown, Jennings County has gotten a lot of sound on here. Brennah, I'll start with you. Do you guys feel disrespected maybe coming into the season?
Somewhat. I mean, we just know that like sometimes we don't get the best looks, and like Sims just, I mean, always tells us, have a chip on your shoulder, no matter what it is. Like if you don't get like what you want, just know that like show it, just show it and prove it to them that like you guys belong here and like you're no different than anyone else.
Elliot, tell me about the chip on your shoulder.
I like being underestimated. I don't like giving the grace and all the grace in the beginning of the season, just because like it gives me an extra chip on my shoulder to go out and perform. Like I have something to prove every single day. And I think that that's what's most important. I'd rather be ranked lowest and go upset whoever. It just means so much to start out lower and then prove your way up, because handouts are not for me or Roncalli in general.
Last one, and then we'll let you guys get out of here. Brennah, for you as the senior, obviously you have a chance to score an even bigger win tomorrow and then later in the season. But as it stands now, where does that one yesterday over the top-ranked team in the state rank for you in your career?
Oh, it felt so good. I mean, I've always wanted something like this before, and like my freshman and sophomore year was a little like we lost first round of sectionals. Like that's not what I really wanted, but like this is definitely like one of the biggest things that happened in my career, and I just like I feel so blessed to be on this team with my friends.
It's fantastic. That's amazing. Brennah and Elliot, thank you guys so much for hopping on with us. I'll see you guys tomorrow night, and
Thank you.
best of luck against Pike.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Brennah, Cerny, Elliot, Leffler. I almost called Elliot by her sister's name, which would have been very bad. I cover Elliot's sister, Haenchen, in softball season, so I'm still a few months away from having to talk about the other Leffler. But yeah, I love their mentality, that underdog mentality, and you could hear the anger almost in Elliot's voice as she discussed being the underdog. And Brennah too, like you can tell she buys it, and Brennah embodies that. Yes. So I mean, she's a smaller guard, but she's so ferocious defensively, and then when she gets going offensively, I mean, the kid's unstoppable. But Sims is like the perfect coach, and it's a perfect mentality for that team and that program at this specific point in time. I would
That
argue.
underdog mentality is about to change, though.
Yeah,
it has already. No matter what happens on Monday, it has already. That they're going to believe, and then they're going to be targeted because it's going to be something to be able to beat a team like Roncalli.
That's what's funny was that coming into the season, I don't buy the underdog thing for them. Like, I think they're odds-on favorites in their sectional. I think that they're probably maybe one of the favorites to emerge in 3A South, despite all of those teams that Danny said, like with Silver Creek, with Washington. And obviously part of that is because I'm most familiar with Roncalli relative to the other schools just by proximity. But there's a lot of talent on that team. And again, like the Mount Vernon game wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing offensively, but defensively, and that's carried through the way that they defend is going to keep them in a lot of games. And then DeeAnn, you mentioned it, and then I was talking with Sims about it too, just the way that they're playing now offensively and attacking the basket, getting inside, and then the IQ side of things too, where Elliot knows who to attack and when, and you guys brought that up on the broadcast. I mean, it just speaks volumes about where this group's at and the potential, that really, really high ceiling.
Yeah,
I think it's important.
Go ahead, Danny.
I think it's important that we take the time to tip our cap to Coach Sims. I thought his defensive game plan and game plan in general, I think were on point, and you could see what he was trying to do. His kids executed really well. But that's all just pregame and kind of early game stuff. Like everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face. And that's the old cliche. And Lawrence Central, with that talent, is going to hit you at multiple different times in the game. And I thought Coach Sims through that game, and through the broadcast, DeeAnn, I congratulate you and your team, and just kind of having like some of the sideline reporting, like talking about toughness in the huddle when they're talking about, Coach Sims was talking about toughness with his team. That's also leaning into what your team does really well. If you play back every Brennah Cerny clip that I've had in the last 3 years, very early in the conversation, I talk about that kid's toughness, and I thought that Sims leaned into Cerny's toughness. I thought Cerny's toughness, matriculated through their entire roster. And I thought they answered and counterpunched with the number one team in the state. And I compliment Coach Sims because, again, that is something that he now is probably very confident with what he can do against really good teams. He knows that he can put in a singular game plan for a singular game and execute it. I think there were not steps taken toward Roncalli's repeat run late, but I think leaps and bounds. Like, I was really impressed with Coach.
Not only did they absorb the punches, they did it with kids in foul trouble. Staley got 3 in the first half. That's one of your bigs. And then Caroline Schottel picks up her 4th early in the third quarter as Lawrence Central takes the lead at 26-24. And it all felt like, even watching it back and knowing the outcome, it felt very familiar to last year's county championship game where Franklin Central was up big and you're just waiting for that one, waiting for that run. And then when it came, Lawrence Central had enough to get over the top. This year, different story. And I think a lot of that is a testament to Roncalli's physicality and the way that they played that game. And I'm fascinated to see what they do against Pike.
Yeah. And, the other thing is I watch body language a lot. I watch the bench a lot. And, like you mentioned, the 2 bigs got into foul trouble. Couple missed free throws here and now that usually go in. A turnover here now that could have, swayed the ball game as Lawrence Central was gaining momentum. You never once saw any type of negativity or, it was a united group that communicated. And like I think Brennah said, is like she is happy and blessed to play with her friends. And it seems like they thoroughly support each other. They understand their roles and they're having fun playing. And, you never saw that, playing not to lose. They continue to play to win and executed Coach Sims' game plan to a T. So, it was very, very impressive. And like you, Hank, I'm excited to see how they're going to withstand Pike's runs, because Pike can score a lot of points real quick, and see what they do defensively, because Pike's in my opinion, Pike's a different breed than LC a little bit because of their depth.
Yeah, that depth at Pike as we transition over to the Red Devils, they're up 50-9, I think it was, at halftime on Brebeuf. I mean, they can score in a hurry. We talked a lot about Sanaya Smith, who's been having a phenomenal season. Their freshmen are coming along nicely. Alana Devine's having a great season. Kamard Booker, Marley Jeffers. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and it's just a never-ending bench that Keith Hollins has at his disposal, and that's just such a major asset to have. Danny, your thoughts on Pike?
Coach Ramey, I'll compliment you. I thought you nailed it on the telecast or the stream when you had made mention that I think they got, I'm kind of pull up my notes here. I think they had 6 players that hit a 3-point shot before 4 minutes left in the second quarter. Those 6 players being Sanaya Smith, Warren, Malia Evans, Vay Mitchell, Nicholson, and Mimi Williams. That's, by the way, without Alana Devine, who is a Division I talent that was there too. I think the one thing that I would say, at the risk of redundancy, about the Pike depth, which is exemplified by their balance in scoring, is that's a very different game plan than what we saw Coach Sims and Roncalli employ against Lawrence Central. Lawrence Central wanted paint congestion on Kiki, wanted attention, and at least 2 people, or at least 1 additional help defender on Lola Lampley. Lola Lampley only got 2 free throws in the second quarter. It's not because Lola didn't. I mean, it's just the defensive spacing and how they positioned themselves. That was the game plan. I don't think they have that luxury against Pike. And if they do, they are definitely risking a kid, getting off. And it could be any of them. It could be any of the 6 players that I had mentioned before from the perimeter that can hurt them. So I think the most fascinating thing is going to be the comparison and the contrasting of the 2 individual game plans just 36 hours apart, to be able to see how Coach Sims plays against a more balanced outfit like the Pike Red Devils.
DeeAnn, do you try to slow the game down if you're on Collie? Because I feel like if you try to get it in, or if you let Pike turn into a track meet, which is what I would assume they'd want to do, correct me if I'm wrong, it lessens your probability of winning. How would you approach that from the Roncalli side?
I think Coach Sims, against LC, I think what you saw him do is that when Roncalli wanted to push it up when they got the rebound, so that they couldn't allow LC to set up their 3/4 full court press. Mm-hmm. So I think they will try to do that on a missed shot, because they do a good job of blocking out. So if they can get that rebound and push it across, then set it up and get Pike into a half-court game, I think that's in their best interest, because Pike will tend to take a lot of risks defensively, and Roncalli is there with their basketball IQ could exploit that a little bit. But yeah, Pike's quickness and talent is, like Danny said, it's a different breed from multiple positions.
And we hadn't mentioned it yet. I'll mention it now. Anaya McKenzie didn't play in that game. Okay. Now, the value that Anaya McKenzie brings to Lawrence Central, in my opinion, is actually on the defensive side. Lawrence Central gets a ton of their offensive production in transition, in their takeaways that they create, that DeeAnn was saying. But McKenzie changed the way that the game was paced. I think it still comes down to Roncalli's ability to handle the basketball. They didn't have live ball turnovers at a high volume or a high clip to give downhill runs. It just seems like when you watch a Lawrence Central basketball game, there's always this portion of the game where it's like Butler layup, McKenzie layup, Lampley layup, and then they start feeling it. Then it's Lampley behind the back to Butler, or McKenzie with an extraordinary play. I didn't think you saw those takeaways. I think, Coach Ramey, I think you bring up a really good point, and Hank, you kind of alluded to it and got us there. But I think Roncalli's ability to handle the basketball, their ability to handle the basketball against Lawrence Central, needs to be replicated against Pike. And I think that is going to be the number one thing. Like, if they take care of the basketball, it's going to be a close game. if they're pitching it around all over the place and putting Pike in live ball change of possession and letting them get out in the open floor, I think it's going to be, without a prediction, I think the game flow would be very different, and we'll see how Roncalli would react to a faster game pace.
You both touched on big things that I wanted to mention during the interview, but neglected to. Roncalli, the way that they handled that pressure, even when LC was able to set up after made basket, they did so well to not turn it over. So often with these LC teams, one of their trademarks is, and DeeAnn, you've seen it firsthand, is just that quick turnover basket and in a flash, you're down. You've given up 4 points in a swing, 6 points in a swing, because they just get you. And once they get you, it just snowballs so fast. And Roncalli managed to avoid that, which was super impressive. And then the physicality inside and the offensive rebounds. It was a offensive rebound at the end of the third quarter on a buzzer beater. Roncalli missed, got their own rebound. They had like 3 or 4 bodies around the basket compared to like 1 or 2 to LC. They pushed them out of the way, got the rebound, put it back. And that kind of is what tilted the game after a back and forth third quarter. And another one of those inflection points where the thing turned. Any other thoughts, takeaways, observations here on the Marion County tournament before I throw out for one last question to bring us home?
It's going to be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm commentating again, so I get my next 2 games are them, and then I get LC in Pike on the 19th, which is going to be a heck of a game too. Hopefully McKenzie will be back. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to see what Coach Sims puts together and how, what Pike does. So they come ready to play.
Before Hank, and because I think this is a super fascinating game. Okay, Coach Ramey, can I put you on the spot? What would you do defensively against Pike? I think anybody that has any coaching experience or any spectator with any spectating experience also would look at the game plan that Coach Sims employed in the semifinal against Lawrence Central and be like, okay, I get it. But we have decades and decades and decades of coaching experience, but I don't know that either of us can sit here confidently and be like, that's what you do against Pike. Right. So Coach Ramey, let me just completely put you on the spot. I lengthened that question because I wanted to give you time to form your answer. What are you doing against that wagon?
I need longer than a moment. But I think that again, after, I'm sure Coach Sims has watched film after film after film, but obviously you have to defend their 3. And if you saw that they did a very good job against Brebeuf at passing the ball and distributing the ball. So when they make those long passes to anticipate from side to side passes, maybe anticipate that that still a little bit more. And once a kid starts hitting the 3, then, I think you've got to defend them and then just hope that they keep missing, because there are times when I've seen that they're so confident in shooting the 3 that they will shoot themselves or have the capability of shooting themselves out of the ball game. And we know that with 3, and again, Pike is so quick, but with 3, shooting the 3, you would get long rebounds. And long rebounds, if you're ready, can lead to easy baskets on the other end. But, it seems like, with Pike and 7 of them shooting 3-pointers or hitting 3-pointers. And let me say this on when you watch Pike shoot, they're not just throwing them up in prayer shots. They are good shooters. They are really good shooters. And, and with Roncalli's, I think they'll extend their zone, and I think they'll, try to see what's going to happen and see if their 2 bigs can handle the Booker and handle Jeffers inside. It's a tough task.
Going to be a fun game to watch. DeeAnn, thanks so much for hopping on with us. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward. I'll get to see you out there tomorrow night with the schedule change. I'll be out there with you.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, can I mention just 2 freshman girls that I saw play this week? That I called the Westfield Zionsville game, and Westfield Gabby Bassett
Yes.
and Lillian Clark. Did you guys talk about them earlier?
No, but I agree with you. I
go.
saw them too this week. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that was, first of all, it was a great game. Zionsville's a young team too. They pretty much led the entire way, and then Westfield took over at the end. But Lillian Clark hit 4 threes, and she has no fear at all in shooting that three or playing, at this level. And this was the first time I'd seen them. And Gabby Bassett, there was a time where, she took over in the fourth quarter, but there was a time when she drove down the lane in traffic, took the ball behind her back, brought the defender on her, kicked it out to an assist. And these are 2 girls that they look like freshmen. They're still thin, scrawny, doesn't look like they've, they haven't matured yet, which, I was impressed. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here, but I was impressed with the Hollowell girl from LC, to be quite honest. And she's a freshman too, but she's a big body. She doesn't appear to be a freshman. You tell me she's a freshman? Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Gabby Bassett and Lillian Clark for Westfield look like freshmen, and just the excitement about freshmen around Indiana here. It's going to be great for long years to come. It's going to be an exciting basketball game to watch with Mitchell Suggs at LN, Mitchell at Pike. There's a lot of good talent coming up, and looking forward to all of them getting better.
I do have a punctuating thought. Welcome to the Westfield bandwagon, by the way, Coach Ramey. Hank and I have we've had the kids on the show or the team on the show, talked about them. But if you look at what's happening with the teams in Sectional 8, particularly in the last 5, 6, 7 days, HSE going to Pendleton Heights and getting beat. Now Westfield has now logged wins against Carmel and Zionsville, 2 of the teams that we thought might provide some resistance to HSE, who might be favored in that sectional. But the key word is might. Westfield is putting together a nice little resume. They've got the HSE game later on the other side of the new year. I think there might be a Noblesville game coming up too. Saturday. But it's starting to look like Westfield is going to be the team that is going to approach that HSE game with wins over all of the other candidates that could be Sectional 8 competition there. So, it's funny because we hadn't talked about it. We didn't talk about it in the pre-show or whatever, but, Coach Ramey, your eye now on Gabby Bassett and Lillian Clark and what she does to the Westfield Shamrocks, I think for you to point it out shows that they're showing it to more sets of eyes than maybe me and Hank.
Yeah, they're the parity in girls basketball right now is unreal, and it is extremely exciting.
I wrote about that for tomorrow, and we'll wrap up on this, and just trying to dissect. There is no clear-cut favorite in 4A. You can make an argument for certain teams. You can make an argument for Homestead. Well, they lost to Norwell. You can make an argument for Norwell. Well, they lost to Warsaw, and the only real team that they've beaten so far has been Homestead. Well, that'll change with the Hall of Fame Classic. Plainfield slipped a little bit. I'm waiting for them to bounce back. Center Grove, I would have loved to have seen them against Bloomington South. Same thing for Bloomington South, who's getting into the meat of their schedule. There's just so many different teams. Like all the teams that we thought of and were talking about before the season have proven to be really good, but there's no clear-cut favorite. And I think this is maybe the most wide open that 4A has felt maybe in my 4 or 5 years here. I'm just trying to think back, but just in terms of a lot of really, really, really good, solid teams up there, each with their own flaws, but they're still really talented and capable of winning it all, which makes it fun. Who would you rank as number 1 in 4A right now? Is it still Lawrence Central on the strength of those out-of-state wins that they had and body of work? Remember, also, they survived a close call against Ben Davis. Is it Homestead by virtue of that win over Plainfield, and then you kind of not write off, but look past the win over Norwell? Is it Norwell for the win over Homestead? Danny, I'll start with you so DeeAnn can ponder it a little bit, but where would you go with that question?
Here comes the bookmark portion of the scores table. Give me Homestead, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. The addition of Delaney Knoll has changed them. Mm-hmm. They haven't played really anybody that was going to give them a hard time in the last 3 games or 4 games or whatever it is since Knoll has been back. But if you turn that film on, Knoll changed them. And there's some macro stuff and some micro stuff that's happening. The macro stuff is this. Coach Parker surprised everybody, myself included, by bringing Delaney Knoll back as the point guard, inserting her back into the starting lineup, moving Carly Mollering off the basketball. So now Delaney Knoll, who, by the way, I think in 4 games has over 30 assists. Let me say that again from an average perspective. In 4 games she didn't even play in the fourth quarter in 2 of those games and gotten over 8 assists. She shoots the ball when she's open, which sounds like a super basic thing, but she's not really at this point in time early in her season really going out there with shot creation. Her shot creation is creating for everybody else. But if you look at the looks that Ankenbrook and Mollering, particularly those 2 kids, if you're looking at the post touches that Epps is getting, they had a basketball game where Gabby Helsum, who set the world on fire through the first 3 games of the Homestead season, including a big 30-burger against Pike, they had a game where Knoll played where I don't think she scored until like the 41st and 42nd point that Homestead had. This is Gabby Helsum, a kid who I've kind of said that I belongs on the Indiana All-Star team. So I think Delaney Knoll, what she does on the offensive side at the point guard spot and making her teammates better, really changes them and makes them different than anything that could be determined from that Norwell loss. So I think right now, I like Homestead.
I'm going to reformat the question for you, DeeAnn, to make it a little easier. Let's focus it to the central Indiana area, because that's the question that I was grappling with as I put together my Fab 15 for the week. Is it Lawrence Central? Is it Pike? Is it Center Grove? Is it somebody that we're not thinking of?
Great question. It's a great question.
It's a tough question. I ask myself it every week, and I hate it.
Yeah. Right now, I'd probably have to say I'd probably go with Pike, to be honest. I think just because of their depth, I don't know. This is a tough. I haven't seen Center Grove play.
I haven't yet either.
I haven't seen them play yet. I haven't seen Pendleton Heights play. I just think that right now, Lawrence Central, again, probably has, the number 1 player in the state, obviously, in Lampley. And, it hurt them not having McKenzie, but still they have 3 really, really good players. And they have, the rest of their players that come in my opinion, are role players. And, but those 3 players are really good. But then you put Pike in there, and with Pike's depth of, having to control 3 players compared to Lawrence Central having to control 5 players is a different story. But that's a tough question. But I'd say Pike would be right up there. And then I agree with Danny on Homestead, because I think when Knoll did not play against Pike when Homestead beat Pike by 20, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that was an early game. So, yeah.
From a coaching perspective as well, I don't know that the blueprint has been publicized with how to beat Homestead and how to beat Pike. And I know they have losses. I get it, okay? But you're not going to go implement Eric Thornton's 1-3-1 and get in passing angles to turn Homestead over. Is it possible, Coach Ramey and Hank, that Coach Sims put out a game plan and a blueprint that you can replicate with a Center Grove style or a Bloomington South style roster that could give Lawrence Central problems in a 1-game season in the postseason?
Yes.
I asked the question earlier to Coach Ramey, how do you beat Pike? And we were kind of laughing at her in that middle box because we were like, ha ha ha. It's like, that's a trick question because nobody knows yet. Right. And we put her on the spot. But earlier in the conversation in the episode, we talked about how Coach Sims nailed the scouting report. So maybe Larry Winters and maybe Coach Stuckmeyer and maybe Keith Hollins and maybe Stephen Thomas and maybe some of these other teams that would have this 1-game season against Lawrence Central does have at least one basketball game of a blueprint that if they follow it, they can be effective in the same way that Roncalli has. that isn't to say that Lawrence Central with McKenzie isn't still the number one team, but I think that is something that I think is worth noting.
Yeah, I think LC is going to have to make a few adjustments in some of their game plans. And, because you look at Ben Davis, if they would have hit their free throws, they had LC on the ropes. And then, so you look at Stan Binge's game plan, then, Roncalli's. And so, I think Coach Lampley's got to do some things a little bit differently, maybe offensively and defensively. She does a great job, but she's going to have to make some adjustments, I think, compared to these last two ball games. And, whereas, Pike sometimes they're a different breed, because I think there are times when Pike can beat themselves, if that makes sense, where they make, take a ill-advised shot, or they take make a silly turnover at critical times against well-disciplined teams in like a Homestead, and that will take advantage of those. So, it's just going to be interesting.
Well, and I'll add to that as well. Like the bad shots that you referenced that Pike used to take, you're seeing that less frequently now. I think kids are a lot more comfortable with their role. I think early in the season, you have this massive roster of what, like 9 kids already with a Division I offer, something ridiculous, and something that sounds absolutely fake. But you had kids taking shots. It's like, I don't know when I'm going to get another shot, so I'm going to take this shot. I do think that their shot selection has improved, and I do think that they trust that when they come out of the basketball game after a short run, that they are going to go back into it, that they don't need to make bad decisions. But that depth is exemplified by who didn't play in the semifinal with Alana Devine. We saw what Anaya McKenzie did. You talked about it on the telecast, Coach Ramey. Anaya McKenzie goes to the shelf in the boot. Hopefully she comes back strong, because she's a huge part of that team. And it completely changes the cosmetic look of Lawrence Central, the number one team in the state. Pike loses Alana Devine, and they look like the exact same basketball team.
Yeah.
And so I do think that Keith's mission in every basketball game has to then be, I got to get this into the 7, 8, 9, even 10th player. Like, they have a kid, like we talked about Savea Mitchell and talk about, and Nicholson and all these kids that quote unquote come off the bench. Malia Evans is another one, high trajectory freshman with a high major offer. But like, they have a kid named Elise Nichols, E. Nichols. Like, E. Nichols is playing a huge role for them in a rotation in the front court with Marley Jeffers and Kamari Booker, and making impactful plays when she's in the basketball game. Like, they had depth, but Keith is developing and creating the effectiveness of that depth through this, because I feel like he thinks, as they get deeper into the postseason, if I can get this game with, 70, 75 possessions in it, run kids in and out, be fresh, Keith is probably thinking, there's no way I'm going to get beat. And so I marvel at the kids like Elise Nichols who are coming in. They're just making huge plays for Pike.
In the last 2 or 3 games, I think, too, that Pike has played, you have seen a concerted effort to get the ball more inside. I think early on, it was just all perimeter work. And, Booker and Jeffers, they weren't getting much touches. Now it seems like they are trying to get them more touches, which will just make them more lethal, because – I mean, as you saw against, Brebeuf, but I mean, Booker she is an athlete, and she can score, run the court. But I thought she had a tremendous game and looked really good against, Brebeuf, and has been solid all the way around for him. So if you get Jeffers and Booker going, I mean, and Keith will. So there'll be a different ball cup too.
Keith, that segment, I hope it makes up for last week when I thought we talked about Pike, but we actually didn't. We just mentioned them in passing. So, Keith, I hope you appreciated the 20 or so minutes that we spent talking about your team, buddy. I know you love it when we talk about you, when I write about you, and when I move you up in the rankings.
He might be covered up on the couch because he didn't coach. He sat at the end of the bench because he was sick at that game against Brebeuf.
Yeah, there's
something
going around. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, he got some rest too for his game on Monday.
Good stuff. Well, Keith, we hope that you listen to the podcast. You enjoy it. We hope that everybody enjoys the podcast, not just Keith Hollins. He's not that special. He's special, but not that special. DeeAnn, thanks so much again for hopping on with us. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Danny, it's a pleasure as always. We'll be back at some point with the pre-Christmas show, whatever. I'm going to be out at the Marion County Championship game tomorrow, Eastern Hancock Lapel on Tuesday, a big small school game. So looking forward to recapping that. So check out that. We'll have lots of coverage on IndyStar.com. I filed like a dozen stories for over the Christmas holiday when I'm on vacation. So stay tuned for that. Danny and I will be having some podcasts. DeeAnn, I'm sure, will be on for a couple of those too as we talk more Marion County games and basketball around the state. But we thank you all so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.